Hey guys, this is Agi, that's A-double-G-I, with Producing Bonedo, and today we'll take a look at the Rupert Neve Design's Newton channel. Now this is a great sounding channel strip, but I found a small quirk that I think you should know about if you want to buy it. I'll also compare the preamp of the Newton to the Shelford channel and to my Fireface, and after that I'll do some processing with the internal EQ and compressor. Enjoy! The Rupert Neve Design's Newton channel is a channel strip that includes a preamp with up to 72 dB of gain, a 3-band EQ, a VCA compressor, and the RND typical silk function. At first glance, it looks a bit like a Shelford, that's the one down here, that's my personal unit, so it looks a bit like a Shelford with fewer controls. The components under the hood are different though. While the Shelford is kind of a best of the old days of Neve brought to the 21st century, the Newton is generally a more modern design. And while the Shelford right now here in Germany sells for about 4,300 euros, the Newton is just under 2,500 euros. The specs are great, but of course the difference in price has to be justified somewhere. Now the preamp of the Newton is built without an input transformer, which can be seen as a sort of a statement. So the Newton is clearly not trying to be some sort of 1073 clone or something. The main control gives you up to 66 dB of gain in 6 dB steps, while the trim can add up to another 6 dB. There also is a sweepable and switchable high-pass filter between 20 Hz and 250 Hz. Now these controls are really close to the preamp section of the Shelford. There is a major difference though. The Newton only has a mic input. There's no DI and there's no real line input that bypasses the preamp. Now there is an XLR TRS combo input on the back, but that only works as an adapter, while the wiring is the same for XLR and TRS. So if you want to use the unit as an outboard processor for mixing, like they say on their website you should set the preamp to 0 dB of gain. Now that is a bit unusual for a channel strip, but most people are probably going to be fine with that. The quirk that I was talking about earlier is that with this design, it is possible to accidentally put phantom power on the lineouts of your audio interface or DA converters. Yes, that's right. Phantom power is also applied to the TRS path of the combo jack. And if you ask me, this is really weird for a piece of gear that's intended to be used as an effects processor. Now in theory, phantom power shouldn't harm your equipment, but I surely wouldn't want to try. And I know myself, and I think that if I used this regularly, I'd probably one day put phantom power on the outputs of my audio interface, thinking that I had a mic connected. Of course, if all you're planning to do with the Newton is record with mics, you don't have to worry about that at all. So, let's leave this topic and move on. The Newton channel is still a very well built and great sounding channel strip. Just like the preamp, the EQ and compressor are more modern designs than in the Shelford channel. So this is not the inductor EQ that you get with the Shelford, and as you can see, this obviously has less controls. There are 2 fixed frequencies for the low shelf and high shelf each, that's 60 and 150 Hz for the low shelf, and 8K and 16K for the high shelf. That's just like the Shelford. And there's a fully sweepable mid-band between 220 Hz and 7K, so that's very flexible. You can boost and cut all bands by 12 dB, and of course, you can combine this with a high-pass filter to shape the low end. Moving on to the compressor. While the Shelford has a diode bridge compressor that's inspired by the classic 2254, the Newton has a more simple VCA compressor with a ratio of 2:1 and a soft knee, and a fixed attack of 20 milliseconds. Now this is really slow. An LA2A, for example, that's already considered as sort of slowish, is around 10 milliseconds. So this one's definitely not made for transient control, but rather for evening out the overall level of a signal. It has a sweepable release of 50 to 500 milliseconds, it has 20 dB of makeup gain, which is a lot, and you can put the compressor pre-EQ, which is great if you boost a lot of bass. Now finally, there's the silk function that can be found in many units by Rupert Neve Designs. A lot of people love this because it has nice red and blue colors, and of course also because it's a great way to add saturation to the signal. The red mode emphasizes the high end, while the blue mode emphasizes the low end. And one more thing about connections. Just like the Shelford channel, the Newton channel has 2 transformer coupled outputs, with the second one being 6 dB lower than the main out. This is a great feature if you want to drive the channel harder without clipping your converters. So this is nice. Now, time to listen. I recorded drums with a single mic in a front of kit position, and I used the Audio-Technica AT4080 ribbon mic for this. I made 3 different takes with the flat preamps of the Newton, the preamps of the Shelford, and my RME Fireface. And I also added a 4th take with the secondary output of the Newton and plus 6 dB of gain. I'll loop the recording so we can take a little more time listening. So did you hear the difference? I really love these kind of comparisons. Now the Shelford sounds a little thicker than the Newton and maybe more important, which is great for people who want to sound important, right? The Newton itself has a more open high end and does indeed sound a bit more modern than the Shelford, which is great again for people who want to sound modern. But the Newton also gets a little thicker with the plus 6 dB version, and I really like this on the drums. Now the Fireface doesn't sound bad at all, but it is thinner. And one very important thing is that with the Newton and the Shelford, the individual instruments of the drum kit feel more like parts of one thing, of one instrument, and they just sit in their place, while with the Fireface, the snare really has a tendency to jump around between the speakers. Now all this is very subtle, but these actually are the important differences when we talk about mic preamps on a certain level. Of course, you need to listen to this on good speakers or at least on headphones to hear it clearly. And yes, if you ask me, these things really make a difference. Drop us a comment if you want to add something to this. Now, let's do some processing to the drums. I'll use the plus 6 dB version that I recorded with the Newton here. So that worked. I really like the sound of the EQ, particularly of the low shelf. But with that being said, of course, a few more frequency options would be nice here. The compressor really surprised me. It stays pretty transparent, also with higher compression, but at shorter release times, it really adds to the drums. Now, combining this with another fast compressor or limiter for transient control would probably be ideal. Now, to round it off, I recorded myself reading the Newton's user manual. I used the Neumann TLM 103 for this, and the signal already sounds so good that I don't feel like EQing a lot. But the compressor and silk are probably going to add to the signal in a very good way. So let me reset this for a minute, and I have to make some changes over here. I already put a de-esser plugin on the voiceover channel because, of course, the Newton doesn't have a de-esser. There's nothing else on the voiceover channel. Thank you for purchasing the Rupert Neve Designs Newton channel. We hope you enjoy using this product as much as we have enjoyed designing and building it. The Newton channel features Class A analog signal paths, a 3-band discrete EQ section, a VCA compressor, and custom Rupert Neve Designs transformer-coupled outputs with variable silk. The Newton channel is designed to provide users with an intuitive, high-quality channel strip that is useful in a wide variety of recording and mixing applications. Important safety instructions. 1. Read these instructions. 2. Keep these instructions. 3. Heed all warnings. 4. Follow all instructions. 5. Do not use this apparatus near water. 6. Clean only with a dry cloth. So that worked nicely too, and here's my conclusion. The Newton channel delivers the high quality expected from a Rupert Neve Designs device at a relatively affordable price. In contrast to the similarly constructed Shelford channel, the Newton uses a more modern circuit design, and I really like the more open sound of the preamp and also the option to drive it harder using the secondary output. The processing via EQ, compressor, and silk is great for broad brushstrokes, and it's definitely interesting for both recording and mixing. With that being said, I find it hard to understand why the Newton has no real line-in. If you are fine with that, you will probably be very happy with the Newton channel and use it on a lot of different sources and make them sound great. So, that's all I had. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to buy the Newton channel, you can help our channel by using the affiliate link below. Thanks.